God brings nations up and brings them down based on their commitment to him, whether or not they're righteous. And if a nation does wicked things, God will bring them down, bring them low, destroy them. And in doing wicked things, what's mentioned in Jeremiah 18 is one of the wicked things, or what causes them to do wicked things, is not listening to God's voice. Okay? Well, what if they never had God's voice? What if this nation doesn't have the Bible? It doesn't matter. God's voice comes through the Bible, but it also comes through what he has made. Through natural revelation, skies are preaching, pouring forth speech, beasts, birds, fish, all these things that God has made so that all men are without an excuse, which we'll land on that. That's Romans 1, 18 through 20. And what is God? So that's how God is speaking. Who is he speaking to? Everyone. How is he speaking? By what he has made. What is he speaking? According to Job, chapter 12, verse 7 through 10, one of the things that he's speaking is that he exists and that he's the source of life and that he holds every living creature and the breath of mankind in his hand, and that if something takes place, it is the Lord who has done it. That's the message. So we've talked about how he speaks, who he speaks to, but what does he speak? What he speaks is that he exists, that he is the creator, he is the source, and he is sovereign. Everything that happens underneath his providence and his sovereign banner. He decreed it. Lastly, if it wasn't already clear enough, just for those of you who just feel like, yeah, but it's Old Testament, I really love the idea of unhitching. Well, let me give you a New Testament verse that you really don't need, because the doctrine has already been firmly established at this point, but we'll go ahead, put the final nail in the coffin. This is Romans chapter 1, verse 18 through 20. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known, here's again the contents, what is God's voice saying? What can be known about God? Let me stop for just a moment here. This is the argument that I'm trying to make. I'm just going to say it abundantly clearly so that nobody could possibly miss it. The voice of God through natural revelation and creation does not just communicate to man the contents of the second table of the law. Through natural revelation, through birds and fish and beasts and skies and day to day and night to night, God is not, through natural revelation, merely communicating to man that it's wrong to murder and that he should honor his father and mother, that it's wrong to steal, that it's wrong to covet, it's wrong to lie. That's not the only message. Wrong to commit adultery. I knew there was one more, that's it. God is not merely communicating through natural revelation to nations everywhere in the world that it's wrong to breach the second table of the law. That's not what the Bible teaches. What the Bible instead teaches is that through natural revelation, one of the prominent tenets of the contents of God's message is not about the second table of the law, but the first. One of the things that God's communicating is himself, not just horizontal moral rules for our interaction with our fellow man, but God is actually speaking about not just morality and how we treat fellow people, but he's talking about himself. It speaks to himself, his sovereignty, his power, his existence. And Romans 1 makes this plain. I believe Job's 12 already suffices, but Romans 1 makes it abundantly plain. So, for what can be known about how we treat our neighbor, how to love our neighbor, the second table of the law? No. What can be known about God? God is plain to them because God has shown it to them. For his, not just his laws and how we treat our fellow man, but his invisible attributes, his own character, things about himself, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been not just his voice pouring forth, speech pouring forth, not just has the message been sent out, but it's been clearly perceived. So God spoke, every man heard, and what was the message about? How to love your neighbor, but also how to love the Lord your God. That God exists, God is sovereign, God is holy, and you, O man, need to bow the knee. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and his wrath quickly kindle. Pay homage to King Jesus. That is a message that everyone knows, whether they've had one verse of the Bible delivered to them or not. Every single person knows there is a God in heaven. He made all things. He is sovereign. He is holy and he is worthy of our worship. And that's precisely why Romans 1 goes on to say that those who refuse these things, that God has said his eternal power, his divine nature has clearly been perceived ever since the creation of the world and still to this day, 2,000 years after the cross. And how is it perceived? What's the vehicle? In the things that have been made. That's nature itself, creation, natural revelation.